Mino Pajashig, welcome. Monique Manatch and Deshnakas, Kidikanek and Ishnabek and Dojaba. Welcome to Indigenous Insights. I'm Monique Manatch, and today we are so honored to have Alanis Obomsawin speaking with us about her life experiences, about storytelling. You've told so many beautiful stories all across Canada. And I'm wondering, have you found that there has been different communities tell stories in a different way?
Yes, I think it depends on the language also, because when people have started life with speaking their language and then they learn English or French or whatever, they have a style that is their own. And it also depends, the sound of all the words is connected to the first language, I think. And it's got a style which is very local, especially when the elderly people are around and they tell of their experience, and the accent comes from the fact that first they spoke their own language and the English is a second language. And they have a way of some nations, like for instance, us Abenaki people, there's no R in our language. So every time there's an R, or there was an R, especially when the priest would baptize everybody, all the girls were named Marie, Marianne. There's no R, so people would change it to an L, and they would say Mali, Malian. And it was like that. Whenever there were R's, like in the French language, there's lots of R's, and it would be changed to an L. So it's very local. It's a style of the particular nation. And there's some letters that they don't use, and it changes the language. And it's so lovely because also the way they speak, the style is very much from their language, and a way of expressing themselves is not the same everywhere. It's very different. And I find that very exciting. It's so beautiful because it's their own way. If they tell a story of long ago, they're going to have their own expression and their own way of, with the importance of the story, you always recognize a style of the Crees or Ojibwe, or, you know, it's quite interesting. I love it. I never get tired of it. I love to hear. I think for me, the word is sacred. This is why when I'm mentoring people, I always tell them, if you don't listen, you're losing. But if you can really listen, not just the words, but the sound of our people, the way they talk, and you are a witness of something special. But if you can't hear, if you say, oh, I know what they're talking about, that's not documentary filmmaking. Documentary filmmaking, you are listening to someone's story. It's not yours. So you have to be very respectful and very loving and really hear. When I was a young girl in Odanak, we didn't have electricity. So, and we didn't have running water. We had an earth road. And at night, you know, it was oil lamps and maybe an adult, especially the men, because they were all guides in the bush for fishing and trapping. And they would tell stories, and us, we just loved it because the animals were always part of it, because they're in the bush and they say, oh, this bear really embarrassed me. And, you know, and they'd talk about the behavior of animals, and we just loved it. But we had no image. So if you had, in our case, there was usually 3 of us, it's like having 3 films because it's your imagination that gives you the images, and they're different from one child to the next. And this is where I think I come from, because I used to only hear, there was no images. And I'm so used to hearing And I know how sacred that is, to really listen to someone who's telling about themselves. Sometimes it's stories about their family. It doesn't matter. It's so precious. And that's why from one nation to the next, it's very different.
It would also, I think, in our community, there's the people who still speak the old Algonquin.
Yes, the old language.
Yeah. And the people who speak the new.
Yes, yes, because like for instance, when we're doing a film in several nations, and you want to make a version in Cree or whatever, it's very difficult because at the end, I always say I give up the credits because you have to tell a story for each word because it's another time. They didn't have this kind of equipment or did this picture taking, and so it doesn't exist. So when you say producer or director, it's you have to find the way to. I find that difficult when it comes to when you're trying to translate just for credits, for instance. It's crazy.
Yeah, because you're having to write a description of what it is.
Of a word, yeah.
Yeah, which would be tough. And it depends. People, they tried to do that in my community. We don't have R's either. We have N's. So Mary is
You don't have
no R's. We say Manny instead of Mary. So it's an N sound instead.
It's interesting, eh?
Yeah, in Cree, there was the L dialect, the Y dialect, and the N dialect. So in Moose Factory, it's Y, it's L.
L, like us.
Yeah. And then on the East Coast, it was the N dialect, and then on the West Coast, it was the Y. So it was like if you were saying no, you would say mola in Moose Factory, or moya in on the West Coast, or mona on the
Yeah, it's interesting.
yeah.
Plus, it would be Inda.
And we say Kawin.
Kawin?
Kawin.
That's Algonquin. Eh? Yeah. It's interesting.
Yeah. But there's such a different perspective of story when people are talking about their communities, or they're talking about the issues that they face. And I'm assuming too, I guess, that the way that they tell comes from deep in deep from inside the culture. They how they experience,
how they express it. It's just so. It's theater in itself. The expression on their face and how they feel. It's different from one nation to the next. It's a style of its own.
And there's no gender in the language.
No.
Which I always found either alive or animate or inanimate. Alive or not alive. And so you kind of have to, you really do have to listen, because you're waiting till the end to find out who it is that they're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you find? Oh, sorry.
I wrote a poem about that.
Really?
And say, from earth, from water, our people loved each other in this manner. For in all our languages, there is no he or she. We are the children of the earth and of the sea.
It's so lovely. And true. That's how we are with each other. It's not, I was always taught that there was that we were matrilineal, and that the roles of the mother and the father were complementary, but that each mother and father had to know the skills of the other. in case something happened, then they would still be able to take care of the children.
Yeah. It's true.
Have you found that storytelling has changed?
It is changing because of people are learning a different language, and they're not anymore so much belonging to a way of talking. Some letters are not the same, so the sound is very different. So they make up words to describe what's going on today, it's all very different than the old days. This is why when I'm saying the problem of doing the credits, when you have to tell a story just to make one word understood, it's like that. So I think all these languages are very precious. It's it's not only the sound of the language, but it tells you of the culture and how people were very close to the creator in many ways and express themselves totally differently, not against nature, but with nature, not against water, with water. And this is why I find it exciting when you're a child and you're listening and the animal have a place just like human. And when they talk about experience in the bush and talking about the character of animals, and in most nations, each animal, especially if they are a symbol of clan, have a song for them, for each animal, special. And also the behavior was not against animals, they were part of it. And I see some old photographs that I have, and I see a beaver, it's like a cat that you have in your house. And it's like the friendship that the children would develop with certain animals and the animals who are part of that life. It's a different time.
My grandmother had a bear cub once.
Yeah.
Yeah, until it got too big, and then they took it, put it, because the bear, for us, they don't hunt bear because they consider it we have a creation story where the bear helped us.
Yeah.
Have you found that there are different protocols for storytelling?
There are different things, not just for storytelling, but in everything we do. Like when I was singing a lot at Mariposa Folk Festival, I could invite whoever I wanted, and every summer I'd have people from all over the country, different nations. And one time we're doing, somebody's playing the drum and we're dancing towards the sun. And there was some people from a different tribe, they said, no, you don't dance towards the sun. You're supposed to go the other way. And it was totally different from another nation. And there are reasons for this, So it's always nice to understand where it comes from and why.
We like that with stories, not so much images, although I know I've heard that images, there's a protocol around only certain families have images, certain images like clan images. We're kind of like that about stories. You're gifted a story, and you can tell that story, but it's but you can't let it go.
No. No. Yeah. It's very interesting. I still don't understand how, when the white people start coming here, that they never talk about our cultures or what came with one nation, and they said we have no religion. It's not true. Our people were very religious, very spiritual people. All those things. I say to myself, were they blind and deaf? Unbelievable. So this is why I guess they treated us like they did at that time. But it's so, for me, exciting to meet people of another nation and how they eat and how they create special. We have a soup in where I come from. It's called poor man's soup. And you can't be more poor than this. You only use potato and onion, but it depends on how you cook it because it has a different taste. And I remember Kizu, my daughter, I used to make poor man's soup, and so often she said, "Mommy, I want some poor man's soup." It was very funny. So good.
Yeah, yeah, they have some. They one of the things that is really good. They have smoked sturgeon.
Yeah.
They'll smoke the sturgeon. I don't really like. They make a soup with it. It's okay, but when they smoke it, it's
They make that at home too.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I don't eat fish or meat.
No way.
No, I never had any. And my parents thought there was something wrong with me because, then I was the only one, like everybody ate meat. Yeah. They thought, she's going to die younger. And look at me. I wish they were here now. I'm going to be 92. That's not bad. Yeah.
Yeah. All the plant-based proteins instead. Yeah. Wow. I tried being a vegetarian, but I didn't do it properly. And I ended up anemic, so I had to go back.
I never had any. My mother said I was a showpiece because when my father would come back from the bush, he'd bring bear meat or chevreuil and caribou, and they would have guests. And my mother said, she said, sometimes we just put a little piece of meat in mashed potato or mashed carrots. And she said, your eyes would practically pop out. You'd never swallow it, you just spit it out. I never had any. I never swallow meat or fish.
Wow.
So, and that's not, my parents ate meat all the time. Yeah. That's funny.
That's the way it was from the get-go.
Yeah. People think I became a vegetarian. It's not true. I just never had any meat or fish. Yeah.
Well, you're healthy.
Oh, yeah. I'm okay.
It must have been so different too, growing up in your community and having your dad was a guide. Yeah. Did your mom? Was she?
She ate meat all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Did she make baskets? Did she?
No, my mother didn't make baskets. But they told me that my grandparents, like her mother and father, they had a house in the summertime. They would go to Michigan, and and they had like a poster that said the Benekis were here, we're making basket. They used to make basket on demand. You could go there and say, I want a basket that's going to fit the corner, this high, this wide, and they would make exactly what you wanted. And my mother never made basket. And apparently my grandmother would say, Mariah is going to have a hard time in life because she won't be making baskets. And apparently my grandfather always said, oh no, she's going to be a business lady. She would take her little boat and she would deliver the basket across the lake. And she had a purse that my grandmother made. She would put the money in there. And she told me, she said, I had tips, so I had another purse that I hid. And I would not declare my tips. That's why my grandfather said, she's going to be a business lady. Yeah. Yeah, they made beautiful baskets. Yeah.
Absolutely stunning. We were fortunate to work on a project with the Mi'kmaq.
Yeah.
We've been working with them in Newfoundland, on the western coast of Newfoundland. Yeah. And there's this one man there who's one of the last who makes those baskets, so we were able to work on a video where he was showing a younger person how to make the ash. I think they're ash.
Ash. Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Black ash.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when I was small, then all the women mostly were making basket. And every house you went to, they had sweetgrass hanging on the wall and the splints from the ash tree. And it was such a nice odor all the time, everywhere you went. I miss that today. Every house you went to, it was like that. It was just lovely. Yeah.
For me, it's that smell of smoke.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because they didn't really, there was some sweetgrass, but it wasn't
No.
as much.
Yeah.
But yeah, they smoke.
Oh,
They smoked the moose, they smoked fish, they
Yeah.
smoked,
yeah.
everything. It was always that sweet smell.
Mm.
Yeah, we make baskets. They're birch bark.
Yeah. That's nice too.
And I didn't know till much older, when I was older, that I thought they just drew the design and
They scratch.
they scrape everything else away.
Yeah.
And they leave this, like, I can't.
And did you see the one they make with their teeth? It's unbelievable. I have some at my house, and I still don't know how were they able to make it so correctly, like so round, and the design. It's amazing.
Yeah. And there was a woman, Cree woman. She was Marasti, and some of her work was at the gallery, the National Gallery, and bees and like little people and beautiful. I mean, I haven't how that is just so intricate.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. It's just amazing.
yeah, it's incredible. I tried to do some birch bark biting with some elders in my community, and they're so kind, you know.
Which community are you
Rapid Lake, Barrier Lake.
Rapid Lake.
Yeah, Algonquin's at Barrier Lake. It's about 3.5 hours north of Ottawa, up in La Vérendrye Park, up there. And so my cousin, she was showing me about the birch bark, but we were taking the bark in the summertime. So there's her and there's her friend Liza, Mary White Duck was my cousin, and Liza, these two little elders, you know, and they're sitting there and they're chewing away. And finally,
how can they do that? You know, and the designs are so intricate.
Beautiful, but they were having a hard time. And finally, Mary stops and she says, "You know, Monique, we usually gather this in May, because by July it's."
Yeah.
And so I said, "Well, let's make baskets."
Yeah.
It's just beautiful stuff.
Yeah.
And it lasts forever. Like if you make it properly, yeah, it'll last a really, really long time. And these are the types of stories that, you know, we need to pass on.
They used to cook. My people cooked. There was a bark, like a pot that they would make, and they would boil water, making soup, this kind of thing. You know, it's amazing.
Yeah, that's true, eh? That they would be able to use that to cook with. Where many people, I have heard both sides of this, where they say that if we videotape the elders, then we're interfering with their relationship with the youth, because they're supposed to be telling the youth, you know, teaching the youth. But then if we don't, I mean, that relationship is already...
I think it's changed. You know, before everybody was afraid. When I started making films, a lot of people were afraid to have their image taken, and that it would be misused, you know, everything that comes with it. And there were certain things that because it's sacred, you shouldn't be filming that, and I understand that, and I would follow the rules. But it's different now. People are less afraid, because when we first started, they thought they're stealing the image from you, and maybe you will not feel this again. A lot of people thought that, and it's very different now. You know, the people realize how important it is, because the next generation, it's hard.
Yeah, that connection.
And you have to protect everything.
Yeah, it's already been broken in so many ways.
Yeah.
And I would give anything to see my grandmother, you know, to hear her voice, to hear her stories.
You see, once you have it, it's there forever.
Exactly. Have you noticed a shift in I mean, the Indigenous film and media sector? It's really only 30, 35 years, very young.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm wondering if there's been a change in how these younger filmmakers...
Well, I think what I worry about is that a lot of, when I'm teaching a lot, and when I tell them, you have to hear, and you don't take a camera when you're first seeing somebody. They can't stand it. They say, oh no, I could miss something. I said, no, you're wrong. You have to listen. It's not your story. You have to give all the respect and all you can for the one who's telling the story. You don't go there, take it, and say, I'm going to do what I want with it. That's very bad. A lot of people do that, even our own people. So I don't like that. I think that it's really the young people are worried, oh, but if I don't have a camera, we're missing something. What you're missing is that people are never going to talk the same. And that's bad. Because when a person, an individual person you're making an interview with, when this person has the trust in you, this person's going to talk very differently. If you arrive with a camera or two cameras, it makes them afraid, and they make sure they don't tell certain stories because it's sacred to them. It's as simple as that. So once a person, a lot of people have told me incredible stories and saying, oh, I never told this to anybody, because they feel at ease and they're not afraid. I'm not going to take something and misuse it, or whether they like it or not. I would never do that. Never. So, and I tell them, if you're sorry that you said something, don't worry, I erase it. And I would never cheat them. And that makes a whole different sound of whatever the story is. If the person is at ease, I always compare the sound of a voice like the sea waves, because if a person's telling a story of a period in their lives that was very difficult and sad, sometimes they cry, the voice changes, then they're talking about something. It's unbelievable. So if you're really listening, you hear this. It's very, very special. It's very sacred, and it's very beautiful. And then, because you have these first stories, when you come back with the crew and you're doing images, you can always go back to the first way this person told a particular story, and you mix the sound, and it's very beautiful. I do it with all the films I make, and it's very special, and it's because of that. So that a person is not afraid, is my hair okay, is the floor clean, all that stuff. And you're afraid, how is this going to be used? But when a person doesn't feel that, it's quite the contrary, and it's so special. Yeah.
So you need to take the time,
Yeah.
build the relationship.
Yeah, it's very important. Mm.
I know still in my community, there are some elders who will let you video, like take them on audio, but they won't let you
Take images.
So we get lots of B-roll.
No, it's quite special. Yeah.
I know there's a lot of there's a switch to people are using more digital tools. They're making games, language games. I've been really fortunate to speak to a few people, Indigenous. There's a couple of Onkahongwe sisters there who are from Ganesabauge, who are making video games for the Mohawk language. And it's just beautiful.
It's wonderful, yeah, yeah.
What do you think of these tools?
Well, if they're used properly, it's fantastic. Your children, when you're gone, they can hear you, they can learn about what it was like at a certain time. It's very special. Believe you me, when I went to school, it was so bad. This is why I'm still here, because the way they were teaching in the classroom was horrifying. And it was written by the brothers of the Christian religion. And first of all, our name was just savages. savage here, savage there, and how this is why when I read these things today and I look and I say, you think, what was wrong with those people who came here? How could they judge and say you have no religion, you're stupid, your language is dirty? This is what we were punished if we spoke our language in those days. Mm-hmm. So that's why when I understood what was going on, that I decided I would do something about it. And I started before making films. I did a lot of touring, hundreds of schools in Canada, in the States, and in Europe. I went everywhere, and I really exposed what was happening in the classroom, and it was awful, But thank God it's changed, because we made sure those books were out of there. That was not an easy thing.
I remember.
So you understand. That's when I finally understood why there was so much hate towards us. They teach you, it's with a license, that you are dirty, ugly, and no religion, no culture, no nothing. So, but now it's so different. I'm so excited to have lived this long, and I see the change, and I see our people being respected, and the respect towards the language also. Some language are being taught at the university level, and locally in a lot of communities they teach the language and their culture and their history first. And that's a very different time. And not only that, but people realize how wrong it was, what happened, and they're very curious on knowing and hearing.
Yeah, it's lovely when you come across those people who are so curious. Mm. And I often they'll say, I didn't know where to start. I don't know how to learn about this. And when they find a way, I always find that they're so generous, when they start learning, if that's how they are.
It's amazing. I tell young people, if there ever was a time when you can do anything, it's now. The doors are open. Any discipline, look in your heart. What gift did you receive? What would you like to be? You can be. You're going to have a lot of helpful people who's going to help you to become that. So it's a very different time. I think it's so special.
What are your plans? What do you think you'll do from here?
From here? Yeah. I'm working. I'm still making films.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I got a lot of work in front of me. So if I live long enough, I'll do it.
Well, there's been so many communities. I mean, the trick-or-treating for us is very special.
I'm so glad I made that film. The years before, every time you mention the word treaty, people say, what's that? It doesn't exist anymore. That's not serious. I used to be so insulted all the time. That's why I made that film. And believe you me, it's going all over the world.
Good. That's good.
Yeah. And I'm always thinking for teaching, in university and high school and all those places, it's very important to understand what a treaty is.
Absolutely. Yeah. There was little child, Wilton. He said he was asked to speak somewhere, and he asked, what do you want me to speak about? And they're like, well, whatever you like. And he said, okay, I'm going to talk about treaty rights. Oh, your Indigenous treaty rights. And he said, no, your treaty rights. It takes two to make a treaty.
Yeah.
And I just thought that the way to turn it on, it's, people are like, what,
Yeah, exactly. And there was so much dishonesty through these treaties. It's just really terrible. People were signing from hearing. They would tell them, this is what you're signing. It wasn't that at all. That was written on paper.
Exactly.
So all those things is very scary when you learn about them.
Changed, like in Moosefag, like in Mushkegowuk, the treaty was changed and then back so that it looked like they had signed these changes. Stan Ludick, the Grand Chief, is...
I miss him, yeah. When I was doing that, I was very much around the James Bay area. And we filmed in Moose Factory. It's a sequence in Moose Factory. And when I went back years after, when I was doing Trick or Treaty, I was back there. And then I went back to show the film Trick or Treating. So I went to Moose Factory and I'm showing the film. And so I told them a story. There used to be the Chichu family. There's a lot of kids and they were all musicians and they were all singers. And Archie, who sings a song in Christmas at Moose Factory, he wrote it. And Arnold was a bit younger. And when I was there, I would stay at Horton Hall with the kids in the dorm. This was a residential school. So one time I decided I'm going to make a toy for the little children. Some of them came from Quebec, from all over the place. In Ontario, they were far from their parents. And, you know, you feel bad. You see, they're 5 years old. So I'm doing these toys by hand. And Archie and Arnold kept coming in and out of the rooms because all our doors are open. There was my photographer, there was a teacher who had his room there. And, you know, we're talking, like I'm working until 2 o'clock in the morning because I didn't want the children to know what I was doing. And Archie comes into my room with Arnold. He said, Alanis, he says, I'm scared to walk home. I said, you're scared to what? You know how small Moose Factory is? Yeah, he says, I am. I said, why? Well, he says, I was talking to this teacher, Doug somebody, and he told me that he lived in Toronto for a long period of time. And he told me that in Toronto, there are people there with guns and they kill people. I said, really? He said, yes. And they called them the Mafia. So his brother, who was younger, said, the Mafia. It's the Mafia. So every time I was showing Moose Factory, I would tell that story. So one time, I think I'm in North Bay someplace, and the phone rings, say, hello? Alanis, it's Archie. I said, Archie, it's so nice. I said, yeah. You're going to go to the Friendship Center and you're going to tell that story about me and the Mafia. I said, yes, I am. He says, well, I wouldn't feel so bad if you told one on Arnold. Well, I said, tell me. He says, well, you know, when we left Moose Factory, we're living, I forget where, in Timmins. And he said, we're working for Treaty number 9. And he said, our first check, Arnold went to the bank. And the teller said, what denomination would you like your money, sir? And Arnold said, gee, I don't know, Anglican, I guess. So I had 2 stories. Unfortunately, they passed away. They're so young. So when I went with Trick or Treaty, I told those stories. And there were some old people from Moose Factory. I said, I'm going to go and show the film in Moosini. They came to it, they said, we want to hear that story. That was so funny. Anglican, I guess.
Anglican. Yeah, there's a lot of Anglicans.
Yeah, the church was really controlling.
Yeah. They built the elementary school on the same site as Horton Hall.
Oh, yeah. They burned it down, Horton Hall.
That's what I heard, yeah. And then he went there. My son went there.
Yeah.
Yeah, to Ministic, they called it. And the teachers would say that sometimes they could hear kids above their head. They could hear them running up and down the hallways. But the school was only 1 story. There was no second story.
No, that happened to me when I was there. They had a film festival there several times. Yeah. So I was there.
Winnipeg Film Festival, I think.
Winnipeg,
yeah. Fred Rickard and his brother.
Yeah. And so I'm telling a story after. And I thought I heard people running like children. And I thought, gee, it's 10 o'clock at night. They're still not in bed. And I told them, and they said, no, it happens all the time. That they think it's children's ghosts I really thought, gee, it's 10 o'clock and they're still running around. And there was no second floor. That's right. It's interesting, eh?
Yeah, there were so many kids. A lot of Inuit kids too were sent there. They have
They had a hospital there. And there was a lot of Inuit with tuberculosis. And I went to sing for them, and they would, and then I'd lend them my drum, and I would tell them the word, and they would say it in Inuktitut and sing the same song in their language. It's funny.
Oh.
Yeah.
His great grandmother was there. His Javan was in the tuberculosis hospital.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was full of children that had tuberculosis too, babies, and yeah. I'm so attached to Moose Factory. It's just quite special.
Yeah. Yeah. We were fortunate. We lived there for about 2 years.
You lived there?
Yeah. With his I wanted his grandparents to have that, to build a relationship with him, you know. So it was an amazing. I was so fortunate. We were able to do a lot of different workshops, dance and puppet making and video. It was really great. That's lovely.
It's good.
He still has a lot of family up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a different time.
Yeah.
Some period, like a lot of children would go home. By then, they could go home a certain part of the year for the holidays. And I had the key of the village school. And, you know, it would get very cold, very, very cold. And so I would march from Horden Hall to the village. And the children in the village knew I was going to pass by. They'd watch in the window. I couldn't even turn around because the wind was so bad, like you can't breathe, you know. And when I would get to the school, I'd turn around, and I had maybe 30 kids that followed me, but I couldn't even turn around to see who it is because you can't breathe. It's so cold and it's so windy. And then I'd open the door, and the kids would make drawings on the floor and storytelling. This is why at the end I said, now I told you lots of stories. It's your turn to tell me stories. That's why it's so comfortable to hear them in Moose Factory. You must have seen that.
Oh yeah, I had Christmas in Moose Factory.
Yeah, you know the way the children talk, they're so at ease, and it's they were not afraid, and they're really telling me about their lives.
Yeah, you had some of the pictures in there too.
Yeah.
I think you showed some of the. They're just precious.
Yeah.
Absolutely precious.
Yeah, very nice.
Have you had that opportunity to? I mean, whenever you go into a community, you stay there for a while to get those stories from the people.
Well, I like in the case of Moose Factory, I went, I think 3 years in a row, and I'd stay a couple of weeks with the children. You know, so they knew me. This is why they feel so comfortable at the end when they're talking. I know I didn't say this, say that, like that. Never. It was very special. Mm-hmm. And I went there on different seasons also. And Thelma Chichu, do you know her?
Thelma Chichu, the name sounds familiar.
She sings. She's made some records, and she wrote me a note a few months ago. And she said, maybe you don't remember, but you stay with us, I forget, in North Bay someplace. And she said, you told my sister that, she said, you showed us some pictures of Moose Factory, and all the kids, I had taken a bunch of kids to the bush, and I had made with this yellow flower that grows everywhere, a thing around there. Everybody had like a couronne, I don't know how to say that in English.
Yeah,
but
like a crown.
yeah. And she said, I wonder if you still have those pictures, and because my two sisters are in it. And I thought, oh my God, I've got so much pictures, how am I going to find this? But I found it just by chance 2 weeks ago, and so I sent her a bunch of them. But she hasn't answered yet, but they're all so young now,
Yeah.
having a nice time.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm wondering if his relatives might have been some of them too, you know, because they would have been about that age,
Yeah.
I think. Yeah, a little older maybe, but do you find that in other communities too with the kids, children? Have you had a chance like to get to know them?
Yeah, a lot of places where I go. I usually go to their school first and tell stories and sing for the kids and stuff like that. And everywhere I go, children are the most important thing for me.
Yeah. They are the future.
Yeah,
They are the future.
yeah, that's special.
Yeah. I find it really inspiring when I'm working with the younger ones. The ones just their ideas are just so
Different.
yeah. Yeah. Well, I want to thank you. It's
My
been
pleasure.
such
Right.
an honor to have this conversation with you.
Mm. Yeah.
Really good.
Well, nice seeing you again. You've grown. How tall are you?
6 feet tall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to think I was tall. Have I got news for you? Every picture I get, I look like a midget.
Yeah, I'm getting shorter.
Yeah.
Used to be taller.
Yeah.
Yeah, not anymore.
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah. Well, thank you. It's very nice. Nice to see you again.
You too.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had that conference, I guess, in 2019. It was so wonderful having you there. And yeah, the things coming out that, you know, people are, it's funny how people are, you know, now it's becoming clearer. Some things just should never be on the internet. Just no. And then people protecting, wanting to make sure that intellectual property, that the culture is protected.
Yeah.
So,
Well, so far I made 65 films. And you can all see them for free on the NFB online, which I feel very good about that because they're used all over, everywhere. So, for teaching.
yeah. I work with the Ottawa School Board, and they're starting an Inuktitut language class.
Oh, it's wonderful.
Yeah, and we're working on Algonquin.
Wow,
Yeah,
it's nice.
to have in the schools.
Yeah, it's changing.
That's for sure. And they have one English course. It's only Indigenous authors,
Yeah,
and they're very careful who they select to make sure that
yeah.
that they're from the community and you know. It's no
Well,
part-
it's great because it took so long before we got the respect that we needed.
Absolutely. I remember some of those. I remember there was a picture, this horrible book called They Went Exploring. And it was a history textbook. I was like in grade 5. And I was the only Indigenous kid in this whole school. There had been one other guy, but he moved. So it was just me. And my brothers were older, so they were not there. My younger brother was too young. And you flip the page, and there's this snarling warrior with the mohawk, you know, with the club, and a cowering soldier. And everybody turned and looked at me.
Yeah,
And I was 10.
yeah, I know. So, yeah. Well, my dear.
Thank you. Do you want me to call Michael and have him come down?
Oh, that's okay. I can go. Yeah. Nice seeing you again.